All right, hey everybody, we're back from executive session. Oop.
I see it on YouTube.
And so since we were having this meeting,
Stream is back up. Okay, now I believe the next item on our agenda for today is region reports. And we will begin with Region 1, which is Mr. Duque and Ms. Yanuskavich.
You're on.
Greetings,
Salutations.
LNC colleagues, staff, New Mexico locals. So appreciate everyone being here. For Region 1, of course, Miguel Duque, Region 1 rep, Kathy Yanuskavich is our alternate. We submitted a written report, which is in the OneNote available to all members. We got great reports from, almost all of our state affiliates. Admittedly, this quarter, there were a couple states that did not submit updates. However, everyone's remained busy, very active. Just to provide a couple little tidbits of additional commentary on what was submitted. Right now, of course, is state convention season for almost all state affiliates. Out of our 7 states in Region 1, which are Washington, Oregon, Arizona, Nevada, Colorado, Nebraska, and Kansas, all but Nebraska and Kansas are having their annual state convention this year. Nebraska and Kansas have them every 2 years, so their next one will be next year. Arizona has completed their annual convention for the year. They elected a new board featuring, not sure if Bill Yanuskavich is in the room. He's the new second vice chair. Arizona has a first vice chair and a second vice chair on their board. So congratulations to the new board of Arizona. They're already working very hard to take the organization to new heights. So essentially coming up in state conventions in Region 1 will be not necessarily in this order, but I think roughly in this order. Washington at the end of this month. We're very excited for our state convention. We'll feature a lot of great speakers. We will have all board positions up for election, except only 1/3 of our judicial committee will be up for election. But all other board positions will be up for election. And we will have definitely some incumbents, so to speak, staying on the board of Washington. We'll have some new talent stepping up to take those positions. I have previously, or up till now, served as at-large representative for LP Washington, one of 8 at-large representatives. I'll no longer be seeking any board position with Washington, just so that I can focus on my LNC responsibilities. My wife, Anna Johnson Duque, she'll be rerunning for chair of LP Washington. And I hope nobody runs against her, just speaking frankly, but nobody's going to be running against her because she's, honestly, they don't want anybody else running LP Washington, just to be honest. We have great speakers like the philosopher and Jack Lloyd. They do really awesome stuff, music videos and other cool digital content, and they're going to be doing some great events. We're going to have karaoke. We've got Clint Russell of Liberty Lockdown Podcast. He and I are teaming up to participate in a debate against, so to speak, a couple of Washington-based radio hosts that are Republicans, and we'll be debating the prompt more or less is, should libertarians vote Republican or vice versa? And naturally, Clint Russell and I will be debating not the affirmative per se, but we'll be debating why Republicans should vote libertarian. Kathy and I will be attending, either her or I will be attending all of our state conventions this year. They're not to be missed. Let's see, after Washington Convention, there will be the LP Oregon Convention at the end, that's the last weekend of May. It's actually, I want to say, Memorial Day weekend. And I want to say those dates are roughly like the 26th or 28th of May, 28th, yes. So actually it's Sunday, the Sunday of that weekend, and it will be in, I want to say it's pronounced Tigard, Oregon, in the Portland, Oregon area. We will also have Nevada State Convention. Colorado Convention is April 1st and 2nd, is that correct?
Yes.
Ms.
April
Harlow?
Fools, there's really no.
Nevada is scheduling their convention soon. Is that right, Ms. Yancevich?
After their legislature is finished for the year, I believe that is in early June, then they will schedule it per their bylaws.
Yes, so we'll have the date on that soon. Naturally, we encourage all libertarians in Region 1 or even elsewhere to travel in for one of our state conventions. They're always very fun. We participated in multiple rallies in tandem with the National Rage Against the War Machine rally. All of them went great. We had a Seattle rally at the Space Needle. I was able to speak, and we had a lot of other coalition speakers, including Free Assange, Seattle. And one of the cool things about certainly our Washington Rage Against the War Machine coalition, and I'm sure others around the country, is that it's spurring ongoing activism. And in Washington, the coalition that formed around the event has set a goal of doing monthly action from here on out. And so the next, the next action is, I want to say March 18th, there's going to be a screening of a Julian Assange documentary in Tacoma, at one of the movie theaters in Tacoma. And we're going to be doing a meetup there with the Free Assange folks in Washington. I also wanted to shout out the Oregon crew that traveled out from Portland. Peter Vanderberg from LP Oregon and a handful of other Oregon members traveled out to speak and participate at the Seattle rally, Colorado, Denver rally. They had good turnout. I know there were other great events that happened that day. And Mrs. Duque has a comment or question.
Yes, just for the live stream, the Assange movie is happening April 16th.
Oh, April 16th.
Yeah, and there's another anti-war rally on March 18th.
Oh, that's right. March 18th, another anti-war rally. April 16th, Assange documentary. We're going to host a meetup after that at our house, which is also in Tacoma. And then beyond that, we're really focused on candidate recruitment. I feel strongly that every LP affiliate needs to be hyper-focused on candidate recruitment right now, because our members nationwide, especially our newest members who showed up in force to Reno to elect this board, many of them have stated loud and clear what they want to see in the party. And one of those things is they want us to focus on local races, winnable races. They want us to focus on political decentralization. And so being that it's 2023, it's not a national election year. This is a big year for local, as in county, city, municipal level elections. Right now, this quarter is the time to be recruiting candidates, preparing people, informing them of which offices are up for election this November. What is the filing fee? Are you willing to run? How much do we need to raise? What paperwork is needed? I know that in Washington, the filing week, the deadline for filing, will be in May. And because we're so serious about this, my wife and I both have announced more or less that we intend to run for something. Like, I'll literally run for dog catcher. I don't know. We're reviewing all the races that are up. Tacoma has most of its city council races up for election. There's county council. There's just a lot of offices nationwide. So our libertarians need to really be talking about this, going to their county elections website and searching which offices are up for election. And again, figuring out how much money do you need to raise? When is the filing deadline? So that's what the conversation in Region 1 is going to be focused on, hardcore, for the next 3 months. And I encourage everyone to stay focused. Additionally, I'll also note that at least 3 states in our region, at least 3 state affiliates now have audit committees formed for their state affiliates. They've been collaborating at a high level to help each other with the formation and operation of these audit committees, which I also would really encourage just preemptively as a sort of an initiative throughout all of our state affiliates to set up an audit committee for multiple reasons. For one thing, just to make sure that your finances look good and that those sorts of things, financial, whatever, lack of revenue or too many expenses or just not keeping the finances in really, really good shape is not going to inhibit our ballot access or ability to succeed in any way as a party in all our different states. It's also a really great way of training up and building a bench of talent that can serve as campaign treasurers, affiliate treasurers, just people with that particular set of skills, that is really crucial for us to succeed. So we are very grateful to our audit committee volunteers who on a monthly basis are reviewing the finances and reporting at our SEC meetings, and they're helping with any continual improvement possible. So I'll leave it at that because everything else can be read in the report, but those are just some additional verbal comments. Thank you very much. Happy to take questions if there are any. Otherwise, I'll yield. Okay. Yes, Ms. Harlows.
It's more of a comment for Colorado, and I would encourage us in other states, not just the elected positions, but the appointed ones. We just had someone in, I don't know whether this is common in other states, but we have taxing districts, metro taxing districts for like the planned unit developments. And they never go away. They never dissolve themselves, even though they're supposed to. So we just had a Douglas County Libertarian who got, is actually going to be elected. No one else ran. They're going to have an election with just his name on the ballot. And that happens all the time in these taxing districts. And you can make a big difference by getting on those boards and voting to dissolve them.
Yes.
And also nearly every county has appointed positions. We had a Douglas County commissioner come and speak to us, and I go, why aren't there libertarians on these committees? And he said, because no libertarians are applying for them. So those are in all of your counties. A lot of times, and I went and looked at the list, no applicants. It isn't even that libertarians aren't applying for them. Nobody is. And you can make a big difference. Like I'm going to be applying for some historic ones, but the property rights get impacted with that, where they start you know how I am about history, but still, if it's somebody's private property, shouldn't unilaterally be declared, they can't make any modifications to it. We want to preserve it, find a voluntary way for the county to buy it, or something. So we can make big differences on these local boards, and people aren't even applying for them. We could walk right in. So please do that. They're all over the place. It's not just Colorado.
Excellent. Thank you for your comments. And I definitely just can't reiterate that enough that the recruitment side of things, I really feel is at least half the battle in getting libertarians elected. We've got to get them to agree to file for office. And once we do that, especially for these local races, many of them are going up against either nobody or people who are not campaigning seriously. Colorado, I will shout out Colorado because Colorado had 49 candidates on the ballot in this past November. They got a mayor elected, Aaron Lamb. He recently went on Tom Wood's show, and that was a really great episode of the Sharing Around because I think it can inspire more people to run for local office. And right now is the time to make it happen. It's just a matter of coming up with, for my areas, City council positions, the filing fee is under $500. And so, I mean, yeah, just, it's not an exorbitant amount of money to come up with. Mr. Rubin.
I do have an issue-specific question. Obviously, I'm involved in the Second Amendment world, and in Washington, you have this wonderful HB 1240, which is the assault weapons ban that's just passed the House and is now going to be forced through in the Senate. You talked about coalition building. One of the unique things you have in the Pacific Northwest is you have leftists that are so extreme that they fight gun control, and they actually have caused issue in places like Seattle and in Portland, where they can't get it passed. Even in Minnesota, this is happening, where they're having a hard time because the horseshoe theory is actually a thing. And are some of those issue coalitions surrounding the gun control activity that's happening right now with Jay Inslee and Sullivan? And is there movement on that front where you're finding you can find common ground there?
Well, I would certainly say that we've got really good allies on Second Amendment issues from all sides of the spectrum. There's the John Brown Gun Club, pro-gun leftists. We love them. And they're the ones also that are showing up for our anti-war rallies. It's kick-ass. We're excited about that. And Mrs. Duque has a comment.
Yeah, some of the groups that I've been getting in touch with just after the Rage Rally, there's a variety of areas where we agree. I'm just pinging them actually right now because of your comment, but I think that that's probably an area we just hadn't gotten there yet.
And just as comment, and for everybody, so I don't have to bring it up multiple times, this is something I'm seeing is a lot of leftist protest to these gun control bills that are going on. So don't be afraid to reach out to them. If something in your state is going down, obviously Oklahoma, this isn't going to happen, or Texas, they created a subcommittee to bury these bills, but like this is something I think if they're tackling, it's a very great example that they're setting in the Pacific Northwest of how you can attack this gun control and really defeat it.
People in Olympia try it every year, and it basically fails. It fails every year. I certainly, we're going to fight hard to make sure that happens again. Ms. Harless.
Yeah, on that, no, but not necessarily gun control. But if you remember Linda Templin, who spoke to us last time, that Green Party lady on RCB, it's absolutely true. You go far enough left, you do get your guns back. Forget about thinking of the Democrats as the left. They're not. They're the party. The leftists who will end up being on our side are, believe it or not, at least in Colorado, the Green Party is very pro-gun. But we had a terrible ballot access bill because Colorado has the best ballot access bill, I think, right now in the country, and they were going to make it one of the worst. And every single third party in Colorado teamed up, and we mauled that senator that wanted to do it. But the forward party, everybody was there, and like that coalition right there defeated it. So yeah, definitely reach out for these coalitions with some of these other minor parties. We have a lot in common with them.
Excellent. I want us to move along in our agenda. I see we might have two more questions. Mr. Nana.
I was actually just going to say, I think we need an extension of time. We'll probably bring one.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you. We'll Pat forward, or I'll just yield unless somebody wants to move to extend
Just real
time.
quick, congratulations on your involvement with the John Brown Gun Club. Folks need to look them up. It's an organization you often have to earn trust with, but they're a powerful force in civil disobedience and activism.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miguel.
Okay.
Personal privilege?
Yeah.
Chair? Yeah, that ran about 10 minutes plus questions. The agenda has 7 minutes, but to be fair, I would not interrupt anybody until after the 10-minute mark for the remainder of the
Can you
region reports, if that's okay.
Well, can you crunch numbers while Region 2 does report to see if we actually have enough time to complete the rest of today's agenda
Sure.
by 5 o'clock?
Sure, I can tell you.
Great.
Yep.
Sorry, guys.
That's okay.
Who wants to get up on the podium and
go?
I'm Martin Cowan, and I am the alternate representative of Region 2, and Dave Benner is not here because he is at the Tennessee State Convention today, and I'm honored to take his place. We represent the southeast of the United States, Tennessee, Georgia, Florida, Alabama, and Mississippi, and we have a very collegial group. We're all from the South, and we all think alike, just kidding. But we really do get along down there, and I'm very proud of that. We're in convention season 2. Mississippi had their convention in February, and all the other conventions are happening between today and May, and they're all doing very, very well. In my written report, which is not my written report, but Region 2's written report, in Georgia, we have something, we have a single issue on smart cities, AKA open air prisons. I don't know if y'all have heard of this. I think I sent something to the list about it. We have one of our state cities, Columbus, Georgia, which is one of the larger cities in Georgia, is working on that. And it's really, really scary. It's video cameras, it's keeping track of you and all this kind of stuff. Open air prisons is the way to describe it. And our executive director down there, Elizabeth Melton Gallimore, has done a lot of work on that, has a PowerPoint presentation and a speech, which I think I've actually sent it to you all. But they've also created a very lovely handbook. It's only 13 pages long. It can be found at banishbigbrother.com. And those of you who are on the web right now, I ask you to go to that webpage and just download the book, and you'll be very impressed, I think, with the work of the Georgia Libertarian Party on this subject. The PowerPoint thing is wonderful, too. I'm very honored to be able to appear every month by Zoom in Florida. I love those guys down there. They're having their convention. I hope I'll be able to get down to it. I attend the Georgia Zoom meeting all the time. Unfortunately, I don't know why, Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, I don't see them on Zoom. They may be, and I was missing it. But as I said, we have a very collegial group in the Southeast United States. We get along great. I'm honored to represent them. I'm honored to be on this board with you all. That concludes my report.
Great. Are there any questions for Mr. Cowan? No? Nope. Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
based on the agenda, we should be at 2:00. We are at 3:00, so we are about 1 hour.
Okay, so we're an hour behind. We're gonna keep going, but keep that in mind as we get towards the end of the day, what kind of motions you'd like to make, what you want to have happen today. All right, so let's go to Region 3.
All right, thanks everybody. I'm Dustin Nan. I'm sure you all know me by now. So my report's pretty brief, so I will also keep it brief and try to get us some time back here. The Indiana Convention had their party last weekend where Evan McMahon was reelected chair. At that convention, Donald Rainwater announced that he was going to run for their gubernatorial nomination as well. So he's going to be running in 2024. That's great news. Those of you who don't know, he did extremely well last time he ran in 2020. So I'm very excited about that. And the app on my phone just crashed, so I lost my report. Give me 1 second.
So much for being brief.
Oh, it's on the screen behind you.
Oh, well, I got it back. We're good. Kentucky had a convention February 16th through the 18th. They passed a rules proposal switching to a central committee model. So therefore, they did not elect a chair at that convention. However, about a week later, they elected a new chair. Excuse me. His name is Charles Altendorf. And they also nominated 2 candidates for statewide office. For treasurer, they nominated Mr. Ken Molman, and for treasurer, they nominated Mr. Robert Perry, and for secretary of state, they nominated Mr. Ken Molman. At that convention, we were able to raise close to $6,000 for their ballot access. They have to each get 5,000 ballot signatures to appear on the ballot. So that was a very successful fundraising on the spot. We did that by soliciting donations based upon the fact that myself and the candidates would match donations. So it was a triple match. So that was very successful. Michigan is currently embroiled in a well-known controversy, which we'll be discussing later this weekend. Competing conventions are currently scheduled for April 1st in 2 locations. There are various legal issues surrounding the situation which cannot be discussed in public. The Ohio party held their Central Committee organizational meeting on January 14th, where I was elected chair of the executive committee. And we are also hosting a regional conference in the Dayton area on July 28th through the 30th. It'll be at the Hope Hotel and Richard C. Holbrook Conference Center. So I invite you all to come out, especially those of you, I hope to see you there, Randall.
I'll be there.
All right, especially those of you close to Region 3 or in Region 3, which I think right now is just me and Randall. But love to see you guys out there. And anybody that is on the LNC that would like to lend their expertise, we will have. So what we do is we have conventions and conferences. On the odd years, we have conferences. At our conferences, there's no business, so it's all training and fun stuff. So we're looking for a lot of people to do training so that we can book up the whole weekend, training and speakers. So if anybody's interested in that, has a specific topic that they want to discuss. I know I've already talked to Ms. Harlos about coming out to talk about Robert's rules. I know, right? Very exciting stuff. But if anybody has any ideas of something they would be good to speak about, and we're able to find you a slot, we will pay for your airfare and we will pay for your hotel room. Meals will be comped. So if anybody has any ideas about something they'd like to come talk about, that would be the time. That's all I got, unless you got questions. Yes, Ms. Harlow.
Yeah, this shady character, Dustin Nana, keeps appearing throughout this report. I don't know how we let him in the party.
I know he's a terrible guy. You guys just stay away from him. Yes, Mr. Daniel.
I'd just like to take this moment to poke and prod everybody in this room. Ken Molman's running for a statewide office and needs ballot access support. If you guys want to support Ken Molman, as he's supported all of you in the past, please reach out to him.
What's he running for?
He's running for Secretary of State on fair elections in Kentucky.
It's an office. Did he run for treasurer?
Yeah, he got 4.3% for treasurer on the platform of abolishing the office a few years back.
The platform of digitizing and abolishing the office. We did back then. That was a radical idea. Maybe not even so much now, but one of our ideas, as is tradition, we've always had the best ideas. I guess in other personal news, it's not necessarily regional news. I serve on the Board of Zoning Appeals in the city of Delaware. And every year we have to elect officers, and I was elected vice chair of the Board of Zoning Appeals, so I'm now serving in that position.
Are you gonna work to end zoning?
So here's what we do. Here's the scope of our board. So if somebody wants to do something and it's against code or against the zoning, they come to us and they're like, can we do it anyhow? And we're like, yep, go ahead, it's your property. So we pretty much already are. We don't have any control over actually changing the zoning, but you best believe that I tell people on city council all the time that we need to restructure our zoning. So,
Zoning nullification.
yes, sir. Ms. Carlos.
That is super cool you're on that, because that's a board you can make a lot of difference. There's a story in the party that a lot of people know, like Mark Montoni served on one of those in Virginia. It was a 17, I think, person thing. They weren't quite as nice as you guys. And he said, the votes were always 16-1, but the one meant he was doing his job.
That's right. We, during my term on the committee, I was put on in summer of 2021 now. So yeah, it's been a while. We have voted to deny a zoning variance exactly 0 times.
That's great.
Nice, Dustin.
Yes, Ms. Houston.
Yeah, on that note, as we are exploring opportunities for future coalitions, I've spoken with some members of a wing of the Democrat Party, ironically, and they have a lot of different flavors there too, and they're really interested in the idea of zoning and ways that we can decrease regulation. So if that's interesting to follow on, I'd like to see if there's some people who are coalition with them.
Yes, certainly. A lot of it has to do with single-family zoning and exclusionary practices that drive up home values, and I can bore you all with that, but I will not.
Tiny houses, homeless people, like that's zoning can make a big difference in people's lives.
Anybody else? Mr. Tanyevich?
I just wanted to say, as a former member of my town's zoning board of appeal, I just want to say, way to go. It is an important role for sure.
I appreciate it. It's a lot of fun. I love it. Is that it? All right, folks. Thank you so much.
Any further questions? We're gonna go into Region 4.
Hello, everyone. My name is Joshua Clark. I am the Region 4 alternate, standing in for Miss Carrie Eiler, who is not here this weekend. So Region 4 is just California. California, we have 230,989 freedom-loving individuals registered in California as libertarian, 1.06% of the population. So that's pretty awesome, considering California's not the most libertarian, but we have the most libertarians. So, prior to the 2022 election, the former chair and the newly elected chair, in cooperation with several county affiliates, submitted 61 arguments against ballot initiatives. So that was really awesome because those appeared in the various counties' voting guides, and it saved the taxpayers about 8.8 million in the ballot initiatives that were defeated. So that was awesome. I will say that Mimi Robson, the former chair, decided not to seek re-election. And so we just had our convention February 17th and 19th. Adrian F. Malagon was elected chair. I just want to say thank you to Mimi for all of her years of service. Yeah, so we have pretty much a new executive committee. Lots of different people were elected. We had a very successful gala during the convention and raised over $11,000 for the state and its candidate support committee. And then also, I think this is pretty awesome, the same weekend, because our convention was the weekend of the Rage Against the War Machine rally. We did have several sister rallies going on in California, as well as our convention, and those were in Santa Cruz, San Francisco, Fresno, and Los Angeles. And that's really all I wanted to touch on today. Any questions? Yes.
It's somewhat of a joke question, but can we trade all the Californians that moved to Colorado, that is California and Colorado, and take your 1.06% libertarians and move them to Colorado? We'll give you Boulder.
Yeah.
Damn it.
All right, thank you.
All right. Up next, we have Region 5. If there is a Region 5 report to be given.
There is. I just have not been able to get the written report in, but I intend to do that after I get home this weekend. Been waiting on something from Mr. Calburn, Pennsylvania chair. He's just been pretty busy with their convention. They just finished up last weekend, and then he had a personal medical issue heading home from that. So we're going to give him a little time to recover. I think he's good. I talked to him a little bit last night. It seems like he's doing okay. Maryland, they broke 1.5% in their gubernatorial race, and they have achieved ballot access for the presidential year. I think this is the second time they've done that in 50 years, is what they said. They've been supporting legislation like Defend the Guard, ending qualified immunity, no knock raids, stuff like that. And they seem to be gaining a lot of traction there. A lot of their members also helped with the rally, several of them. And that was great to have. DC has been pretty dormant, but they're working on starting up some happy hours here soon. Delaware, their convention will be taking place May 20th, and they have speakers like Spike and Maj, and they'll also be doing a comedy show fundraiser April 7th. West Virginia, also convention season. April 15th will be their convention. They have a camp speaking, and they'll be looking for candidates this year for the upcoming election. Virginia seems to be getting back on its feet. You may know we had our special convention back in, that was December.
December 10th.
Yeah, yep. So they're pretty much on track now. Holly Ward and Celeste Garrett were removed from their positions due to their actions involved with the events at the 9/11 meeting. So there's a new chair, a new vice chair, a new secretary. They're still working on filling vacancies from the other congressional district seats, but it seems to be working out very well. And the corporate entity was reinstated, I think a couple months ago now, maybe a month or two ago. So they seem to be back on track, thankfully. North Carolina, they just had their convention, I think, today. And now they're gearing up for the election cycle. And they've also been working with a pastor in the city of Gastonia because the city is harassing him for trying to help homeless people on his own property. Like he got trailers and stuff and put them on his own property, and then the city's trying to, shut him down with zoning laws and stuff like that. So join your zoning board to stop that from happening. But that's pretty much it for Region 5.
Any questions for Region 5?
More of a comment. I'm sure you were finding in some of the issues that are going on with some states that boards incorporate because for limited liability, starting to think it's more trouble than it's worth. And each of these boards in your regions, if they're incorporated for the love of God, have them have an attorney look at it, because some corporate laws will supersede your bylaws and deprive your members of rights. So really have attorneys look at the nonprofit corporation law in your state. Didn't turn out to be a problem in Virginia, but I've been looking at it in a lot of states, including Colorado. Our notice requirements are different because of corporation law. So I'm just not so sure it's worth it, but it's each state, take a look at that.
Any other questions? Okay, if there's no other questions, we're gonna go on to Region 6.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. Mark Tugevich.
Little louder, buddy. Outside voice, a little louder.
Sorry, a little tired. Mark Tugevich, recently elected Region 6 Chair, so I'll do this briefly, and Madam Secretary, I'll get you some bullets real soon on them. Region 6 includes for the stream North and South Dakota, Iowa, Montana, Minnesota, Illinois, Utah, Wisconsin, and South Carolina. Go figure. When I spoke with the chairs in agreeing to serve in this capacity, it was with the general agreement that we would focus on cooperation, increased communication and collaboration, and also an important focus on being a drama-free region. And I think that's top of mind. I only have a few brief state updates. Taylor, back in state chair in North Dakota, says they're focused on raising their membership. They've created 2 local affiliates and are moving with at least another 2 or 3 within the next few months into more rural areas. They're trying to do some outreach at a local state fair and are also almost finished their ballot access drive. A couple grand left to raise to accomplish that in North Dakota. In South Dakota, my state, Greg Baldwin, state chair, says it's been pretty quiet the last few months, although they do have an upcoming state convention in historic Deadwood, South Dakota on May 6th. And they have a full slate of speakers and training scheduled. And they are tracking steady growth in state party membership since the election of about 3% for South Dakota. In Iowa, Chair Jules Cutler reports that their biggest accomplishment is that their gubernatorial candidate, Rick Stewart, obtained the more than 2% of the total vote that qualifies them for major party status for the first time in history. So how about that? You all feel the pain, right? I mean, you always remember your first time getting statewide ballot access. I certainly do in New Hampshire. Previously they had they had major party status through the presidential candidate Gary Johnson, but were not able to sustain it. Their state convention is April 28th, 29th. They'll be celebrating that accomplishment, having grassroots training. They claim their numbers are up tremendously. I haven't reviewed this month's membership report that just came out, but our friends in Iowa cite from December 2021 with about 12,000 registered libertarians. That number is more like 16,000 for not a densely populated state. So we're getting good progress. And lastly, our friends in Iowa want to invite and encourage any potential candidate for the LP presidential nomination to visit them for their state, state party event, not a primary, but I guess I'll call it their convention. So enough on, and those are the only states I have updates on. My apologies. I did see some email traffic inquiring regarding New Mexico. So at our last convention, I was present at the organizing meetings for this region. And my recollection is that we organized with New Mexico's participation. The chair actually led the meetings, the chair from the former affiliate, you would say, and created our region accordingly. However, prior to the end of the convention, the chair reported, former chair, I should say, reported that his board would not permit him to sign the affiliate agreement. So that left Region 6 all of this year with New Mexico not officially in the region, although we would not exist if it were not for that participation going forward. We are looking at options for including the New Mexico affiliate, plus potentially, and I got to talk to the vice chair about this because regionless affiliates officially fall under your wing. But we're looking at, and there's a couple more in our neck of the woods. So looking at other ways of collaboration as we lead up to that time, 90 days before convention, where we could formally reform. So we'll see what happens. So the chairs have not taken that matter up as yet, but we're certainly talking about it. Lastly, in terms of alternate election, we do have plans to elect a Region 6 alternate this month. We have put out a call for candidates throughout the region, emphasizing, hey, you need to have the time, the money to spend, the cost commitment, hopefully some experience and the temperament, the commitment to the whole drama-free collaboration thing. The application process, in brief, is through each chair in the region with their approval. And I have a deadline that I proposed by March 24th for such submissions to get plenty of time, and hopefully a discussion or vote scheduled just prior to the end of the month. So that, I think, is all we have. Questions, comments? Go ahead, Ms. Marlos.
Is there a timeline for an alternate election?
I just mentioned that. So
oh, I'm sorry.
March 24th, we've asked as a deadline for submission. Applicants should submit through their state chairs.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious. It's not my business. I like keeping a little calendar.
I know.
And also, is there any kind of timeline on a decision on New Mexico?
I expect to meet with the chairs on that prior to the end of this month. So I was going to meet with them prior to this meeting, ran out of time, and knowing that we'd be hanging with our New Mexico homies tonight, I figured there'd be probably input from yourself, from others, from them, as to possible things that could be done. So I said, why don't you wait till I get back? I'm sure I'll have more information.
And I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, and if I am, just tell me tell me I am.
No.
Because it seems to me that a decision on them might impact a potential alternate election in case they want to nominate somebody.
Right.
So obviously it's Region 6's business. I've told you that a million times. I would just encourage, perhaps that to be brought up. I don't know if they want to nominate anyone, but I would hate for them to miss that opportunity if they are part of the region.
And we're trying to emphasize among candidate qualifications, first, people not just with experience in your own state party board, but ideally folks who have either national LP committee experience, national committee experience, et cetera, so that there would be sort of a quickened learning curve, if you will. And I have no word on any candidates thus far.
Oh yeah, and I wouldn't press you for that. I was just curious. I'll put in my little deadlines, that's all.
Sure, yeah. So, and other questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, can you just review again real quick? My question is, if somehow New Mexico decides that they're not in Region 6, or the region decides, however that decision is made, does that bring Region 6 under the 10% threshold? And are there consequences to that if that's the case?
My understanding is as follows, that New Mexico, as I mentioned earlier, participated during the convention for the purposes of formation. We had the 10%, that gets us the region. However, because they did not sign the regional agreement, they were not part of the region's subsequent. So right now they are considered, at least my take, and the secretary can correct me if she has a different interpretation, I believe they are considered a regionless state similar to Alaska and Hawaii, for example. And what I was getting at is there are other ways, and one of the things I will propose, I think, to the chairs, at least, we'll see what they say, is that we consider some sort of less formal affiliation. There's a couple other states besides New Mexico in our neck of the woods that are unaffiliated, and it would have to be with the vice chair's permission, I think, but so that they would, for example, participate in, whatever meetings of chairs to swap, hey, what's going on in your state? How are you doing this? Swap best practices, et cetera. While perhaps not formally having a vote, it's a good thing to get comfortable, everybody getting comfortable with everybody else as we approach the convention. So that's the idea. We'll see what they have to say on it.
Okay. Thank you.
And Mr. Vice Chair, may I ask, you got any initial reaction to that? Because I'm not gonna run down that rabbit hole if your first reaction is, well, I'm not too keen on it.
That's whatever they want to do. If you want to talk to them about it, that's fine.
No, but it's formally under your wing. So I would want your
Right.
affirmative thing. So, all right, thank you. That's it.
Okay, any additional questions for Region 6? If not, I believe we're gonna go to Region 8.
Region 8. Can everybody hear me okay?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
You want to set the timer, sir?
You
Like
just
Top-
started talking.
Like
so-
Top Gun, okay. I want to welcome, like Top Gun, right? I got 2 minutes. First of all, I want to welcome everyone to Region 8, not just the birthplace of the American experiment, also the first step in the national divorce. We are at the forefront of the fight for liberty. I want to take a moment, on a serious note, to salute Nolan Pelletier, former Libertarian Party chair of the state of New Hampshire. There's a gentleman who decided not to run again for re-election, but over the last few years has been a steady hand, a real force in maintaining, if you will, the integrity of the libertarian movement in a state like New Hampshire, where he was under continual assault by people, including our former chair, who would try to wrest the party away from membership. It was the first of many purges, uncharted territory, prompting national changes in leadership, regional changes in representation. But he wasn't just that. He was also in charge of arguably the most exciting social media in the Libertarian Party. But at the same time, in a move that we've been waiting years for, he's established strong connections with the Free State Project, to the point where the overlap, if you will, the attendance of both Free State members and Libertarian members at each other's events has been a source of considerable strength, not just for the Libertarian Party, but also the Libertarian presence in, if you will, the New Hampshire legislature. I believe somewhere in 98 to 99 state reps out of a 400 plus body are now affiliated in some sense with liberty and the libertarian movement, some connection to our philosophy. New Hampshire, but can I have a round of applause for Nolan? Because this is a guy who was first out of the gate and really held strong. So I'm just going to ask you for just a short time ago, New Hampshire had their annual convention. Conrad Nelson is the chair. Robley Hall, our own Robley Hall, is now vice chair of the Libertarian Party. Last week, New Hampshire was the home of the New Hampshire Liberty Forum, sponsored by the Free State Project. Over 20 presenters held forth on subjects like the Croydon, New Hampshire budget affair, covered by the Washington Post and the New York Times, when the Free State Project kind of crept up and surprised them. For a few months, took over a town. There was a strong libertarian presence with Rage Against the War Machine swag on full display. I had the opportunity to attend the secession panel, and I hope you all view the video. Yes, there is legislation in the New Hampshire legislature for the state of New Hampshire to secede from the Union. And of course, there was Jeremy Coffin's keynote address. Those are my two personal favorites. Other events, the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire held a hockey match the second year in a row versus the New Hampshire Republican Party. This time the GOP prevailed 4-1, but the real winners were $4,500 raised for the Children's Scholarship Fund for Liberty in New Hampshire, supporting homeschooling, liberty schools. All right. Coming up, Fort Fest, the 20th anniversary is going to be June 19th. A couple quick notes from Robley as well. They're expanding local chapters back into the seacoast and back into northern New Hampshire. And they're working closely, again, like I said, with the Free State Project, 3 new life members in New Hampshire. Massachusetts, all right. Again, the Legitimate Libertarian Association of Massachusetts is in fact their formal name. Thomas Edlund was the interim chair and was happy enough to produce some data for me. They had their convention today. 3 elections coming up, not only just midterm, but midterm, where there's solid opportunities both in school boards as well as town councils and a mayoral race that's emerging in a city called Fall River, Massachusetts. We're going to reach out and help it. Critically important. Today, the Legitimate Libertarian Association of Massachusetts announced today at a convention run by U.S. Senate candidate Lou Marino, he will be running against Democrat Elizabeth Warren. The infrastructure is up and ready. Logos, critically, to both the future of the campaign and to the party of Massachusetts. An FEC account has been established. Social media, Facebook, it's all in place. We do expect to get some positive media attention. I'll be working aggressively with the local party. Listen, just a recap from where they were a year ago. Devastated by a purge, bank accounts and social media zero out. Now they're back up to 2,200 Twitter followers, nearly 3,000 Facebook followers, and they got $3,000 hard-earned in the bank after they were literally stolen from by the purge party. Interesting concept. We're going to be doing this in several places in New England. The South Shore and the Worcester affiliates are going to be doing town council takeovers, we're calling them, where we're going to take 15 minute speeches, break it up to 5 or 6 people, and sort of, if you will, take over public comment on libertarian issues. All right. By the way, Dave Byrne is the newly elected state chair from Walama. Vermont. The Libertarian Vermont hosted a well-attended sister action to the Rage Against the War Machine titled Vermont Against the War Machine on February 19th. Critically, out of this event, the Vermont Anti-War Coalition has been established with the Defend the Guard legislation as a legislative focus for this group. They passed new bylaws earlier this month. A copy will be sent to our national secretary momentarily. April 3rd, Burlington, Vermont. If that name sounds familiar to you, that is, one again, the home of failed socialist workers' paradise, Bernie Sanders. All right? We are going to have, on their opening day of their town council, we are going to attempt to do again a takeover, if you will, a public comment at the Burlington, Vermont City Council. All right? Maine, holy cow. Maine's raised nearly $30,000 to do a registration drive. Now, I think we're all a little bit familiar with this. In summary, right now, as the law stands, if they get 10,000 registrants, they can become a permanent political party. No more crazy middle of the night 100,000. The madness can end. They've got legislation right now in committee, which has actually a chance of passage. We should lower that 10,000 to 5,000. Right now, they're closing in on about 1,500 signatures. With the weather breaking, the real drive begins. We're going to be doing some social outreach nationally to present the position. We'd ask everybody to contribute a few dollars. That's great. Make some phone calls. That's great. Most importantly, if anyone knows anyone who's got a contractor who's adept at running registration drives, a little bit different, please, please, please let us know. Major event coming up on the 23rd, 24th. They're going to be hosting a protest at their state capital against the state's endorsement, if you will, of the Ukraine war. All right. Again, this is a state that a couple years ago was sort of in stasis. Harrison Kemp is doing an outstanding job up there. All right, Rhode Island. Again, I mentioned this earlier as a direct result of the Rage Against the War Machine event and our ability to have a conversation with Mr. McKnight. Right, we have taken the legislation and we have formally introduced, and possibly the bluest state in America, all right, with endorsements and sponsorship by both Republican and Democratic representatives. I'm not naive. I don't hold hopes that we're going to pass them the first time, but the opportunity to have provocative hearings, provocative conversations, and raise real issues about the role of the National Guard in our foreign policy is astonishing. There's a bill up for mushrooms, which we're going to be supporting. Interestingly enough, there's legislation I had the opportunity to testify on behalf of, forcing municipalities to disclose the cost of litigation. You know how every one of us in this room has gotten sued or had to be sued or whatever, and the state just seems, the city has an amazing, endless budget to spend money. We want to force disclosure of that. All right. How am I doing? I'm working, buddy. New York. I want to speak in executive session about one or two positive developments in New York. There is, as our chairman was aware, there have been meetings with a coalition that's reemerging in this term to drastically reduce the number of signatures required for ballot access down to 15,000. There will, a gentleman by the name of Ken Blankenship, he's a Republican, has taken up that mantle. And again, a coalition is emerging, which will provide, I think, some really great support for it. We're going to be attending to make sure that we're going to be at press conferences. The Libertarian Party will be represented in person, and we will be speechifying. All right. New York continues its emphasis on local elections. On a second front, as a desire to build parties around the Empire State. All right. Did I miss anybody? We got a couple of people that we're still waiting for. I got Rhode Island, I got New York, Vermont. I think I got everybody. How do you do? New Jersey. We're waiting on New Jersey right now. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, one other thing in Rhode Island. You know, mutual aid is a big part of the affiliate support committee. We've got a group of libertarians who have raised money with a licensed food truck, are doing what we call Friday at the end of the month feeds, where we're taking great nutritious breakfast out to people invest in poverty, and we're feeding them. And it's the impact has been significant. I'll close out before questions with a call for action. If we are effectively, as a philosophy, as an organization, as a movement, attempting to fight the state takeover of charities and are looking to replace them, then we have to be the ones to do that. One of the libertarians in question, final thought, he owns a bricks and mortar restaurant as well as a food truck. On his menu, on his permanent menu, he's got a menu choice. For $2.50, you can add to your bill a meal for someone who's homeless. I believe that's libertarian as what? Questions? Dustin?
It's been a little while since I've gotten an update. How many registrations does Vermont have as of today?
I'm sorry, couldn't hear that.
For registrations in Vermont, where are they at today?
Maine?
Maine.
I'm sorry, Maine. That's what I meant.
Maine, they're at about, my understanding is they're between 1,400 and 1,500.
Okay.
And again, they've got, with the real, with the weather finally breaking there, they're going hardcore. For example, you will be able to register at that anti-war protest at the state capitol.
So
Any other questions? Please, go ahead.
Two quick ones. One, I didn't hear the name of the new Massachusetts chair.
That's Mr. Burnham, David Burnham.
Burnham.
Yeah.
And the second, just a little more on the, I mean, did I hear you right regarding New York and ballot access that, so you're involved in a coalition that's trying to get legislation, there's a Republican involved, 15,000 signatures would be the new requirement, or am I not hearing that right?
Yeah, again, we all know that the soup is being made, the sausage is being made right now.
Because the existing requirement, I mean, last time we talked about this, this was likely to be, right, one of our most difficult, if not impossible states to get this year.
Right. Yeah, and I want to point out, I can get more than this in a little bit, but if you were to read, up on the Libertarian Party of New York website, I'll get them to share this, is the text, if you will, of the lawsuit from 2020. And if you were to read the trail of what then Governor Cuomo did, and how he justified it, and the methodology was used, it's horrifying. But again, I can go more into that executive session.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I could provide a brief update on New Jersey if you'd like. I could provide a brief update on New Jersey if you'd like, because their convention is upcoming, and I'd like that to be put out
Where are
there.
we at with time?
I'm still in touch with a lot of them.
We're at 10 minutes.
We're at 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Come on, folks, I kept it under 10 minutes. Do I get a round of applause?
Here's what I'm gonna recommend. I'm gonna recommend we take a 5 or 10 minute recess, because we've been going for about 2 hours. During that time, if you wanna give an update, while some of us are going in down the bathroom. We want a 5 or 10 minute recess.
10.
10. Okay, 10 minutes. Any objections? Okay, going once, going twice. Okay, we're gonna be at recess till 3:48. We're gonna come back to the vice chair filling in on the regional states.
You used to sell cattle in Oklahoma?
You have no idea what I have.
Look at we're right here. 20.
Or North Texas.
I am not.
Wanted to speak during the convention, or did you want to do it with candidates? So then I won't. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's fine. I mean, you can mention. Right, yeah.
Okay.
Early,
Yeah.
it's very neat.
I'm in front of
So you may want to be more broad, and I'm fine with that, but I really like, it's very targeted.
That's fine. Yeah, no, I don't. I miss the. Yeah.
I don't want, because you know how people go crazy.
Yeah.
Better off. Because if we don't, someone's gonna go, well, they just want to be able to make people like LNC.
Yeah.
No breath.
Yeah, about road committee. Very.
It's on stupid, like, according to what, as far as skills go.
Did you see it?
I wanted it to hold up here. The other new top gun, where you're trying to do it.
Oh, yeah.
So, but also, I think it's during the
I got it.
So
We're-
I did that.
yeah, if you don't mind to look over my notes,
Okay, yeah.
yeah, that would be great, because I'm open to changing it. I just try to make it extremely narrowly tailored. Because I think most of us would agree that we don't want it to be overly broad. Those support committees, so I basically had you narrow territory specifically because. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. But I feel good. That was nice. I was actually surprised that when I sat down and worked through everything, how the board just kept going. Kind of like, okay, I'm gonna stop now. I mean, I could get there.
I was trying that way, they turned this way.
I don't even know in an official way. But right now, and I kept some of those chairs that were already in so, and then I just put it at the beginning. No, don't worry about it. To their credit, I mean, as soon as I said, I know you say so. As soon as I said, that sounded so mob. Sorry about Jersey, I got that under control. Don't worry about Jersey, I got those rules.
Oh.
What really weird about me? Do not recommend it. I think we need to I mean, there's an urgency. I think we could easily transport it to all the locations. You know, it's funny, I jokingly made a comment yesterday that we should definitely connect with like a local massage and be like, what level of donation do we can provide optional massage sessions? Honestly, just a joke, but you know, like, I do. Yeah, I need to do that because I have a neurological condition and I also have and both of them cause really weird and bad pain. So it's not all the time, which is nice, but when it does happen, it really sit and hurt, and then after a while, standing makes it so well, I like do that.
Any lifestyle changes?
I've been trying to organize some big medication, changing a lot of my diet. But no problem to do. It's like, well, so this question is very well. So it's like, okay.
Josh, I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah. So like, I don't I have to do exactly what I have to do. Like, I don't like no solid, like.
Since we're on, so you can coordinate the donation now when you see that payment. So okay.
Oh. Would you be Oklahoma?
No, California.
Just okay. Joshua STCL at Gmail.
Well, I'm done.
Calculator out.
The 5 to 10 second loading.
Yep. Every single page you load. So start. Okay, this is in the last year. So 179. That's also HQ, right? So gonna be an easier way to do this. Yeah, total 1654, right? And so that means we can just subtract everything that. Actually, that failed. I don't know how. I haven't looked at these columns. And oh no, canceled is in there, so it's not going to be included in. All right, let me just add these up because I just want to make sure we don't include a canceled thing.
Okay.
Okay, so you want to keep me honest while I scroll up here?
Okay, where you at? 25?
Plus 125, plus 125.
Plus 100.
Okay.
Plus 100. Plus 125. 125.
6 125s in a row, or no, so we just did those hundreds.
I think we just did these two.
So we just did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 3, plus 125, plus 125, plus 125, plus 125. Yeah, you're already there.
Oh. Okay.
Right? Yeah, that was
as of March 1st.
Yep.
Okay.
Makes sense. I'll scroll through this one more time and just make sure, but that makes sense to me. So this is 125.
I think there'd be an easier way to you'd be able to query since year to date or something.
Yeah, if I actually opened up search, I could do SQL functions to sum it up and stuff, but this is just quicker for this purpose. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's 125. Oh no, because the one is failed.
Which one?
January 1st.
Oh, okay. So I'm basically $100.
No, I didn't include that when we added them up.
Oh, okay. Okay.
125 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So times 7 plus 200, right?
Yeah.
Then plus 250.
Yeah.
50, then plus 25, right? Then plus 179.
March 14th. Is that what's the day? Oh,
March 11th. Yeah, and that's 1529. So yeah, March 1st, you got it. You're eligible.
Oh.
Did that get put on your? No, it didn't. We need to. So I think Robert adds that manually, but we need to get a manual process stood up or an automatic process stood up so that when that criteria gets met, it gets automatically added.
Okay.
Ah, yay.
I mean, sure. I guess I have.
Makes it a lot easier.
I do. But it's like family. See them fly off the mountain over.
1 month.
Just so you, I know it because when you were messing with that, your face was like just all.
I want.
Yeah.
So see it. John Thompson. We talked. He does something. I want that do you like the idea of the guy? I get a moment. I know the guy who's doing the food truck with me, right? We're out there at 30 degrees below. This guy's got on his menu at the restaurant, feed the homeless, $2. Somebody walked in the other day. About something.
Oh, it's $30. It's $35, $40.
Yeah, he was running for state office.
How much shall we shove it? It was $1.25. I had a libertarian in Florida.
That's it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, no.
That's actually completely different. I like that.
So the dinner.
I always laugh for the record, by the way, when people say that like the Democrats didn't actually have many people
I
voting.
didn't see it either.
The county next to mine in West Virginia, Margaret, Logan County, West Virginia, Mingo County. Logan literally had a sheriff and Congress candidate that both went to jail because there were like 116 dead people that voted for them. It was a full like that became publicly available to the prosecution for how many guys voted in their election. And it's like,
Oh, yes,
this does happen. People think it's a myth because it seems so outrageous.
Up to 6 p.m.
Although it's kind of like this, what is it saying? Well, like, it's way long enough with conspiracy theory.
But I get it.
That's 2009. So 2004. Get out of here. Because I was still.
All right, let's reel it in.
So,
Let's
you know,
reel it in. We're 3 minutes past.
Gilbert, Mingo County, yes. Well, I'm Morgan.
Okay, we're gonna come back to order now. 3:52. As a reminder, we have a 6 o'clock dinner reservation at a place that's about 20 minutes away. So keep that in mind as we're moving to extend time. Next item on the agenda is a report by our vice chair for regionless states.
To eight, is it eight?
Point of logistics question,
Point of personal privilege.
point of personal privilege, thank you, Madam Chair. Do we have a group transportation arrangement at all for tonight?
It's a great question. I'm gonna confirm with the hotel if the shuttle can take at least one batch of folks. We just learned the restaurant in the past 24 hours, so I think the plan A is Uber, and I will confirm that, just so we have that information, but I think we'll probably get lucky with one shuttle, or maybe one shuttle batch. Maybe one swap. It was
Thank
an
you.
8 o'clock. Yeah, let me say a quick thing. So I sent this out in local time, but some of you have mentioned it's showing in your local time.
Yeah,
So
it
if you're on
was.
the East Coast or Central or whatever, heads up, this is 6 p.m. and I don't know how to override Google. Welcome
Kathy.
Microsoft. Hopefully we don't have that problem.
It's 6.
eventually, so.
Since I got
Eastern.
caught on that yet last night, it does say Eastern time
Yes,
very
and
prominently.
Thank you.
so.
I know Hardy and I had a
Yeah.
confusion on that too. So.
Oh, I saw 8 and I was like, 8?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
so
a
it
late
means
dinner.
it's 6 o'clock.
I figured it was
Okay.
since most people are flying in, so that's why we did it today.
Let's go.
So I reached out to Alaska and heard nothing. So that's Alaska. Wyoming, I heard something, but not much. So I reached out to the most recent chair, Sean Johnson, and he informed me that he was no longer affiliated with the LP. I asked who was, and he gave me contact info for the secretary, forgetting her name, but I did send her a text asking for some information. She responded asking what she could provide, and I told her, and I have not heard back. That was maybe a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. But I was able to gather some convention minutes and bylaws back from 2016 up until 2022, and from the state Secretary of State, and I forwarded that to Karen Ann. But that's pretty much it for Wyoming. Idaho seems to be getting back on track. It looks like they've had to pretty much rebuild everything from scratch. They're working with an attorney to set up the party as an entity for protection in the future and to grow the party. They're restarting their social media. They're setting up a bank account with statewide access, setting up a new website with Stripe account, and all their committee positions have been filled and are operational for the first time in the party's history. Still recovering from the coup. They were unable to collect membership dues for a pretty long time, but that seems to have been resolved, to my understanding. They're set to have a convention April 22nd. I can't pronounce the name of that town. It looks very French, but they are continuing to grow their membership around the state, and they're creating a list of sheriffs in the state who have pledged to not enforce the ATF pistol brace ban. And they're setting up a system of grading bills presented by the state on a freedom type index. And then they're also looking to get their data transferred into CRM, and it seems like that has been a major problem, especially with mass emailing. I'm sure we can work with them to resolve this, but that's pretty much it for Region 0. Oh, Hawaii. It seems like there might have been a little bit of an internal problem similar to what we have seen, but that may be resolving itself later this year. I think they're set to have a convention this year, but they have not announced it yet. But there's still, some members are still focusing on organizing, lobbying the state legislature and sending out action alerts and stuff like that, and meeting with local members on the Big Island and also Kauai. So that's pretty much it there.
Okay, any questions? Any questions? Okay, if there's no questions on our regional estates, we're gonna go move into the next item on our agenda, which is a discussion regarding committee. Do we have the actual title of that agenda item?
Yeah, I believe it was committee best practices. Hold on one second. From earlier adopted agenda.
This committee reports.
Yep.
No, actually, we had that after
Oh.
committee
Yeah,
reports. It was before fill APRC vacancy, and it was committee procedure and effectiveness.
Yeah.
So committee reports are actually next. We
Okay, got
put that before fill APRC.
Okay, got it. Okay, committee reports, so let's jump right into APRC.
Nothing to report, because it's secret.
All right, nothing to report on APRC. Audit committee report has been stricken. Awards committee, do we have a report from the awards committee?
While we haven't formally formed yet, I recently sent an email to the committee members proposing a date for an organizational meeting, and that would be next month, if I recall correctly. And we'll see if that happens. We're still plenty early.
Okay, great. Up next is, okay, so ballot access has been moved, candidate support has been moved. Believe we're jumping to convention oversight committee?
Okay. I know I won't need the 15 minutes unless there's a lot of questions. Thank you, Madam Chair. I did send a written report in. I really asked everybody to read it. I'm not going to go through every item, although there are some updates to the report. And one really important thing that I want to make people aware of at this early date. First of all, and I'll save that for last in case there are any questions or discussion. First of all, the RFP for 2026 has been sent out. I just got an update from Robert this morning that we have already gotten responses from 6 cities. And we are expecting a number more. And that is for 2026. The RFP did not necessarily state that it would only be Memorial Day. I haven't had it, obviously, it's just this morning. I don't know what dates they're talking about, but we are planning on doing it around Memorial Day of 2026. Number 2, as of today, our good colleague, Mr. Hagopian, is going to be, he has asked to resign from the committee. due to scheduling conflicts. And I've asked him to at least stay involved. The major issue with Todd is making the meetings, which we are having, by the way, every other Wednesday. Our next meeting is March 15th, actually this coming Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. But Todd has graciously accepted, I would like him to keep track of the financials, since he's the financial guy anyway, of the restricted convention funds, and obviously the revenue and expenses of the actual convention direct revenues and expenses. With that, I also want to mention that, like what Todd is doing, we could use the help from any other member who is interested in helping with any aspect of the convention. Mr. Timievich and I have talked, and he is interested in working on the quote main event, the presidential gala, whatever we want to call it, whatever we'll decide to call it this time around after we've nominated a candidate. Just like Mr. Timievich offering the help, we can use the help on any aspect of the convention. I like to tell people conventions are like raking leaves and shoveling snow. You can never have enough help. So we can use anybody, and even if it's just a strict tunnel of a certain portion of that convention, that goes a long way for helping the 7 members of the oversight committee. That's just less work we have to do ourselves, and we all really have to monitor, and that's what we're trying to get to, so that we are monitoring the work that everybody else is doing, so we can always use the help. We'll be Dustin Blankenship will be talking about a motion to allow some committees to create subcommittees underneath them as part of the policy manual. I'm not going to get into that now. That we'll talk about. Dustin's planning on talking about that, but I will say in advance that we discussed this at a convention oversight committee in conjunction with the candidate support committee, and the convention oversight committee is in full support of the motion. We'll talk more about that during his presentation. The last thing, and probably the most important thing that we want to put in people's heads right now, is we talked about it on the convention oversight committee. The current plan is to have a 4-day business session. That is different from what we've done in the past. It has always been 3 days. And as most of you who have attended conventions know, rarely, if ever, do we get through business in 3 days. And this year is coming up especially. Obviously, it's a presidential year, which adds time. The bylaws committee has been very active. We'll be talking to them. We'll be talking to the platform committee about how much time they think they're going to need. And then the convention committee, with the help of the chair, will be working on an agenda, a business agenda first, to determine the time that's going to be needed to make sure we actually get everything done. Now, that involves some logistical issues for our members. At this point, without getting too much into the weeds, we have access to the main, all of the rooms at the convention, which for purposes of the public will be at the Washington, D.C. Hilton Memorial Day weekend, 2024. We will have access to the rooms starting on Wednesday at 2 p.m. So we are concerned that we can get the main convention floor ready for business by Thursday. So at this point, to start in the morning. So at this point, we're looking at Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Monday being the holiday. And we know a lot of people like to travel back home on the holiday. So there are some logistical issues. Nothing is set in stone here, but it is up for discussion, and it is something we're going to have to hash out fairly soon. There was some support for maybe trying to do Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I don't have enough information from the hotel yet. I will get that information. The committee will get that invitation to find out if we have access to rooms prior to Wednesday at 2 p.m. So that's a big issue that I wanted this board and the public in general to make aware of, because I know the convention committee, we really feel we're going to need 4 days. that this is not going to get done in 3 days. So we just have to figure out the logistical issues. So with that, other than what's on the report, I have nothing more to report at this time. So I will entertain questions. Ms. Harless.
I have two.
Okay.
Well, first, with the resignation of Mr. Hagopian, are you looking to fill that spot this meeting? It has to be an LNC member.
It has to be an LNC member. I had not given any, because we had just discussed it this morning, I had not given any thought as to whether we would do that at this meeting.
Can I make a suggestion, since
Sure.
there's two regions that have elections? There's going to be a Region 6 alternate, and either something's going to happen in Region 5 that we don't know who these people are going to be. They might be like wonderful convention people that might want the position. So I didn't know what your plan was, but I would suggest we wait until Region 5 and Region 6 have their elections.
I would discuss that with the committee on Wednesday night, but I don't see that as being an issue. It's early enough in the process, although I have to stop saying that because it's not really early anymore. But for one extra member, I believe that's early enough that we could do that.
And here's the second thing, if I'm going to ask the LNC's indulgence a little bit. As you know, I'm the chair of the bylaws committee. As we've all known, last year has revealed a lot of problems with affiliate bylaws. The national bylaws have some problems. So I'm glad, I hope we end up getting support for the 4 days, because there really is some work that needs to be done. And I invite any LNC member and any party member to please come to the bylaws committee meetings. We meet every other week, every other Thursday. And it's a great committee. We're really hashing out some things, but the bylaws need some love.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Sorry, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Okay,
No, Mr. Toomey. Yeah.
Okay.
Am I good? Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Great idea, Ms. Harlos. So a suggestion for the committee in alignment with our desire for increased paid membership and revenue, as has been done in the past, may I recommend that delegation seating at the convention be done based on percentage membership increase during some period of time prior to the last year, something like that. In other words, I'm sure it gives a little advantage to the small states, but it is certainly an incentive, as to your earlier point, Ms. Harlos, towards increasing membership.
Yeah, we talked about that at a convention committee meeting, and we were concerned that just a percentage would basically be it would be an much easier path for a smaller state. So we were also considering maybe doing a two-factor, doing a percentage and then a raw number. If we merge a percentage and a raw number into a percentage, then that equals the playing field, because bigger states could get bigger numbers on the actual number itself, but their percentage would be smaller, and vice versa on the percentage.
Yep,
So we are actually talking about it.
Yeah, great.
Well, it's something I suggested last time, not in this committee. People in states buying raffle tickets for it. So doing it as a fundraiser, and then have a random drawing, and everybody has, that's another way to do a fundraising, like we do for the convention theme. Vote with your dollars. Like, I don't know, if you're in a small state, Wyoming, wherever it might be, maybe you'll be the lucky raffle winner and be front and center. We usually have 3 rows. Maybe one of them could be one way, the middle one could be another way, and the third top front rows could be another way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we are actively discussing.
Thanks, Rick.
okay.
And we would probably do something. We were figuring the period of time to be about a year or 9 months, something like that. So it has.
Along those lines, just an idea, rather than do it by total percentage increase, you could do it by percentage versus registered voters, which would be fair for everybody.
That is a great idea.
Okay. Madam Chair.
I'm going to raise this point during the bylaws committee report as well. I would like to see us, maybe not in 2026, but in 2028, move our convention back closer to the Iowa caucuses. We need to start doing that. We need to start reeling it back in if we want to be taken a little bit more seriously politically. So that's something that the convention committee would have to deal with, and
Our bylaws already allow it. There's nothing preventing that in the bylaw.
But are there issues with
delegate allegation
with
and
state conventions
deadlines.
and their restrictions on when they can hold conventions? That's going to be, I think that's going to be the biggest issue with doing that. I am personally, and I'm not speaking for the committee, I'm a big proponent of that, but I know there are some issues with state charters and
Yep.
things like
Right, you have
that
to
that are
make
going
an
to be an
effort to
issue.
move them
but
back.
it's,
so we might need a few years heads up, but I'm giving you a heads up now.
Madam Chair, we ran into that in Rhode Island where we found that we were electing delegates to the convention with not enough time to get a reputable airfare. So it took us a year, but we just moved back so that the prior year's convention elected delegates. So I think we're wise to do it. Too many times we've lost a month or two in June where campaigns are trying to gear up.
It's not. It's
It doesn't work. Your suggestion.
yeah. It's
we
not.
can be on that
We
immediately.
want to be more serious. We need to.
Right. Yeah.
You all know I'm the grumpy cat on this issue. I'm the grumpy cat here.
Would you like to respond here, or
No,
we have
we
a
have
couple of
time.
minutes left?
Okay, here's the issue when you elect delegates the year before. Unfortunately, there's some people who leave the party, and then you have people that you've elected or they stop doing work, and the people, and you have newer people that you would rather have. What ends up happening if we do this, Colorado will be one of the states. You're either forcing the states to have a second convention, in which case we're imposing a cost upon states, or you're punting it to the boards to elect delegates. And that is salting the soup, because the boards sometimes are not as representative of the diverse views of the membership. What will end up happening is that boards of directors are going to be the ones electing delegates. And that's not good. Just in general, I can tell you some states will really, really resent this. I obviously don't speak for the entire state of Colorado, but I know a lot of people in Colorado would resent it because we cannot have our convention until a certain date. It's like
I
usually
don't
in
think you're
April.
the only state.
Well, the good news is we've got nearly 4 years to figure it out. So let's get on it.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else?
Just want a very brief comment. We talked earlier today about Scrum. Convention Oversight Committee is in a very unofficial phase 0 with staff. I want to say thank you so much. We've had a great relationship where we let them know we start new stuff every other Friday, and Rich gets it always in on time to us. So I really appreciate that, and looking forward to scaling that out to other committees. Thank you.
Great. Okay.
Thank you.
Are we at time?
Yep, we are.
Okay, but I thought, Mr.
It's
I
going to
moved
be
to
with, it'll be with my report tomorrow for the CSC.
But I thought this was for convention.
It was a joint conversation, so I'm going to bring it up through CSC.
It's not just only for
Okay.
COC, so I'm letting him work.
All right. Let's go to historical preservation.
Okay, one moment. I kind of thought, I I had support time, sorry. 1 second. So the report is on the screen. We were working actually with the Convention Oversight Committee. The Historical Committee is going to be taking on a project. If you remember last convention, there was like an in memoriam done, and it got kind of awkward because we were running out of time and that was getting postponed, and that's just so disrespectful to deceased libertarians, but we also had to get through business. So the Convention Oversight Committee asked the Historical Committee if they would be willing to put together some kind of slideshows, that's not the right word, but like a video, but with no sound, that would have words that could play during all of our downtime. So when votes are being counted or during recesses, and it would loop. So that way there's no reason to do, it turns out to be tacky motions to not hear an in memoriam, and it would keep looping. And would probably do some other historical stuff. So the historical committee has agreed to take that on. Lisa Gansky is going to be heading that up. There's been a little bit of well, one thing I wanted to show you guys on the screen here, I always like to show you interesting acquisitions we just got. We just got these buttons. There's a Jerome Ciccelli, governor of 1974, Free Libertarian Party of New York, which is a super, super cool button that we found. And there's this also Party of Principle pen that we picked up. And this is actually a slide that they used to use in old radio, TV ads. You'd have to give them these camera-ready slides, and it's super cool as well. We're also reaching out to state parties. If you guys don't know, the Libertarian Party of Colorado puts all of its records on LPDF, all of its minutes and all of that. So when websites move, they're not worried about moving all these records. It just stays on LPDF along with all their bylaws, all their platform. Everything like that. We've had a little bit of a setback on the committee last term. Not going to mention names. It's not necessary. It was insisted we weren't scanning the boxes fast enough. Scanning is not an easy task. I know it sounds like it is, but it isn't. Archival scanning isn't. So they were all sent to one particular place to get scanned by volunteers. When I got the boxes back, 2.5 years worth of organizational work was destroyed because they were all mixed together. So I'm starting all over again, probably 2,000 hours worth of work but they're scanned. But part of the problem is they're scanned. Like if you had a newsletter, you know how sometimes where there are multiple pages, but if you take them apart and you just set it on the scanner, you got like page 1 and page 10. So we're having now to go and disassemble all the scanning and we'll get it done. It just did really put us back. It would have been better to just let us pay to have it scanned at the rate we were doing it, but it is what it is. And let me see what else is on here. I mean, there's a ton of articles on there. I mean, as you can see, we now got 8,612 documents uploaded onto LPDF. Super encourage everyone to become an editor. Make sure your state party is updated. And same thing for regionals, to make sure, check on your state parties and see if they're updated. This committee, I just need to give a shout out to them. This committee's been in existence since late 2016, maybe early 2017. We've met every other week for now 7 years. We meet, and it's mostly the same members of the committee. They're just super, super dedicated. So that's a lot of meetings. These are people that super love, they love history. I'm just trying to see if there's anything else I need to highlight, but I always end with this. If you guys believe in this type of work, we were able to help Oliver Hall with some research at one point when he needed to know how much we spent on a certain ballot access drive. Every once in a while, we get in requests for research like that helps. I always end my historical committee reports with a fundraising appeal. If you believe in this work, there is a dedicated earmark. The committee does not spend money we don't raise ourselves. We have some archival 2-inch broadcast reel tapes from 74, 76. They don't get better with age, and very expensive and I know I see the time thing. They're very expensive to convert. So we would appreciate any donations to that, and I'll entertain any questions if there's any time for it.
Okay, time has expired. If we have any questions, I need someone to make a motion.
No questions.
Okay, if there's no questions, we're gonna go, thank you very much, Madam Secretary. We're gonna go to the next committee report, which is information services. Are we calling in Ms. Del Signore, or is someone else gonna give her report on her behalf?
It's my understanding that we're giving a brief update, unless Miguel, you wanted to jump in.
I was just gonna say, while Donovan and I are on the committee, I don't know
I
that
can't
we
hear you.
have,
We'll
I don't know that we have a report or, so if Lainey has something, then go for it.
And maybe Andy and I can look at, yeah, real quick.
So basically, the IS committee has also been one of our Phase Zero Scrum partners. They're in ADO, and we are working with them on a couple things with it. It's been going really well. The two big things are Liz on the IS committee is, like I mentioned earlier, helping with the M365 migration. She's an expert at this stuff. She's great. And then Eric on the IS committee is building a automated SOS data import that will work for all 50 states to city. So basically, states can just use this tool to automatically import the entire SOS roles into Civi and not have to spend a bunch of time messing with formatting or just manually inputting, which is the situation a lot of states are in right now. So those are two big efforts. They've been working with us in Scrum. I really appreciate it.
And one more word of thanks to everyone on that committee. We have an excellent working relationship, super collaborative and mutual. So really, thank you to everyone here on that committee, and looking forward to continuing that with all of our committees.
All right, let's go ahead and go to our next agenda item, which is, I just navigated away to it in the agenda.
Policy management.
I believe it's now the discussion.
No, policy manual.
Policy
Oh, policy.
I'm looking right at it. How could I forget it?
Okay, one more.
Okay, next item on the agenda is policy manual change proposals by the subcommittee. I'm looking at your notes, but not looking at the agenda.
No, that's not it. Did I not stick them in here? Okay, I had it.
Right at the bottom.
At the bottom.
No, that's not it.
Okay.
That's subcommittees.
Okay.
That's not the one.
I saw it up there, and then I think you changed on the left column to something, to a different folder.
Oh, maybe it's over.
Special committees?
Special committees.
Oh, I don't see
No,
any special.
no, standing committees.
EPCC, you just had it and lost it.
It's not EPCC.
Oh, I'm sorry. Absolutely.
I put it on the list, but I also, just give me 1 second. I have it in the drive. Let me
That's
just
fine.
open the drive. Wrong. Now you understand my magic record keeping. 1 second. New business with previous notice. Okay, so that's, no, that's the Civi CRM one.
Madam Secretary, I just have a request. When it would become appropriate for me to do so, I have an agenda amendment motion to make, but it's not imperative to be done immediately, but just whenever would be best suited. I trust your judgment on that.
For some reason I can't, well, I know what one of them is. Let me just go, give me,
Justin, when did you want to make that motion?
If it's appropriate to do now, I
no, I have my,
So you do your thing.
okay.
If it's not covered, I would love for you to make that motion when we get into discussing committee best practices.
Well, one of them, I'm just trying to pull up in the policy manual.
Because I was going to if you're not.
There's a deletion we wanted to do. That's the bylaws. I don't want the bylaws. I want the policy manual. This is the policy manual. Give me 1 second. The associate.
Is it just the deletion?
No, there were two proposals. The second one I might need to find, and Mr. Blankenship could maybe go ahead, but one of them was
The deletion is in OneNote. I have it up.
It is?
It is.
Where is it in one?
It's under new business with previous notes.
Why
It says
could-
delete 20505.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, let me find that. Okay, there we go. Got it. Okay, so the first motion was to delete section 2.05 in the policy manual, which, section 5, which is auxiliary memberships. This was passed last term. The problem with it is the term membership cannot be used for anyone who hasn't signed the pledge. That was brought up earlier by Ms. Houston, and I had asked her if this section even has raised any significant money where maybe we should consider rewriting it not to use the word member, and it really hasn't been a revenue source. It's something we could always add in the future. So right now, this provision violates our bylaws, so we're just moving to delete this provision.
Let's do it.
You're always in favor of
I was
that, right?
raising my hand to delete this.
It came out of a committee, so it doesn't need a second.
Right. So, okay, raising my hand to call the question, I don't know.
All right. Any objection to passing this policy manual change? Would we like to go to a roll call vote?
No.
No, no objection.
Do we have to?
No. Everybody just voted yes.
Yeah, that's what happened last.
For something, well, it's substantive, but however, it is a bylaws. We're doing this motion just to do it when technically the chair could just rule that this policy manual provision violates the bylaws. So I don't think we need a roll call, but we're violating the bylaws. I think.
No
everyone-
objection. Okay, we're no longer violating the bylaws. Motion passes. Great.
Next.
Good job.
Next.
I don't think I don't think I had a second one. Was it the CRM one that was the second one?
Yeah, we got a second.
Did we have two motions?
These are the ones just coming out of the.
It was
committee, I
the,
believe.
Yeah, but I don't remember what the
There's a
second.
second, I don't know if this is it, if you go back to the panel, the new business panel.
Yeah, no, that's the subordinate committees, which is,
The policy manual change, the one that says policy manual change, right there.
that's the CRM
Oh,
committee.
okay.
And then this one was subcommittees, which,
Karen Ann, I think the other one was the APRC and we pulled that
and we pulled it.
to discuss later.
Okay,
At
so
our
that's
next
the only
meeting.
one then. There's only one motion.
Okay. All right, so jumping right along. Where are we
Committee
at
procedure
now?
effectiveness.
If I remember what it was supposed to be, I'll add it tomorrow.
And would now
Okay.
be the appropriate time for me to make that motion?
Now we are on to, almost, new business with previous notice. We're into committees best practices. So I believe this is Mr. Duquesne's item.
This wasn't the thing that I wanted to move unless you want to move it.
So I'm gonna let Mr. Duquesne open and then, yep,
What's it about?
jump in.
I noticed this item, and just to kind of recap what I put in the thread, I said, I'd like to discuss, I don't think that there's anything needs to be voted on here. I think that it's a good time, given we have a new vice chair, we have new tools being implemented at the staff and national level to talk about committee best practices, effectiveness, accountability, productivity, documentation of all our different committees. There are a lot of different committees that basically represent, that's a lot of volunteer time that is being used across all our different committees, and we want to make sure that it's being used very highly effectively. So I said, I'd like to see us give guidance to those committees, particularly the chairs, vice chairs, secretaries of each committee. I think it would be a really good time to set or reset standards. If this isn't already codified, or if it is, I think it could just be put in practice at a higher level. Things like when committee meetings are scheduled, that they go into a central place, perhaps viewable only to the LNC and staff, or to the public if that's appropriate, if it's something that is a meeting that's open to the public, such as if all of our members are invited to attend bylaws committee meetings, for instance, then that could be on a public calendar. Whereas maybe if a committee doesn't necessarily want to open it up to the whole membership, then it could be at least viewable to LNC and staff for our awareness. Perhaps we happen to be free to attend a committee, even if we're not on it, simply to see if there's any way that we can help. It would be additionally helpful, similarly, for there to be a central place where the meeting agenda is noticed. It can be viewed by LNC and staff in advance of the meeting. I just am garnering from hearing people talk about what's going on different committees that not all of them implement these practices. either at all or at the same level. Some committees may not even run meetings off of an agenda and know what they're meeting about before getting into the meeting. And so I'm not calling anybody out with this, but I just realized that some committees don't have really excellent attendance of their committee members. It's not being recorded who is or isn't attending committee meetings. That's information that would be really, really helpful to have to basically our whole LNC and staff. So what I said here was collection and notice of meeting agenda items in advance. Ideally, I would think at least a couple days or 3 days prior to whenever the meeting is happening, that the members of that committee know what they're meeting about, so the time can be managed properly. Again, recording attendance, recording minutes. It's possible, I would think, that our amazing LNC secretary, Ms. Harlos, could provide really easily used templates for these things. It would only take a small amount of training for our committees to be able to use tools like that and put them in a central place. I would think somewhere in our, soon to be, what is it, 365?
Yeah, M365.
Yeah, exactly. Our OneDrive, OneNote, all those things. So attendance and minutes, so that we can see, okay, a meeting did happen. Here's what happened. Votes were done. Things were discussed. And periodic review. I would think that the vice chair is particularly well suited for doing this sort of thing, because our chair can only do so much. And our vice chair is an extension of our chair and maintains a very high level understanding of our strategic vision, what our staff capabilities and limitations are, and how we should be prioritizing our resources. And so I would just submit humbly to our awesome new vice chair, Mr. Watkins, that would be a very highly valuable role for you to serve, is in helping guide the usage of time, volunteer time and resources on the committees. Because I would venture to guess that various committee members, they might show up to meetings in a very dedicated fashion and be thinking like, I don't know if we really are achieving our goals. They might discuss things. They might have suggestions that don't go anywhere. They don't hear back about them. There's a lot of different, what ifs. So I would request that we start to record this information more. And that was the gist of the things I wanted to bring up. Ms. Harlos?
Well, I was waiting until you were done.
Yep.
To add to this discussion, I think part of the issue is the LNC in general, and it's not just this LNC, it's all LNCs, need to be more familiar with the policies that are already in place. So I pulled up some things. Committee reports. Already, every committee report is supposed to provide at a minimum 7 days before, but noting the dates and attendance rosters for each of their meetings. That is supposed to be part of every single committee report. And since the last LNC meeting, and progress noting the committee's objectives. But also, if you go to the LP committee subpage on the website, all of the public discussion groups, if they have one, are on this page. But like, for instance, Affiliate Support Committee, it says this is a confidential committee that doesn't have a public email discussion list. But if you go, for instance, to the Bylaws Committee, let me just do a search here for Bylaws, which is a public committee. The discussion list is here, and all of the meeting notices are posted in this discussion list along with the minutes. So this is the place where all this stuff is supposed to go. But also, because I know I like putting things in multiple locations, we do have also on the main site, here's an index of discussion list archives for public committees. I need to add if any other have that, but this is where minutes, agendas are supposed to go. Also, one last place, this is what I would encourage committees to do, because this will not matter when it comes to when websites change, when LNCs change. And I am going to be just given my own, the bylaws committee again as an example. Really, the committee chairs should be doing, this is the wrong committee, hold on one second. National Bylaws and Rules Committee, I'm trying to go to the most current one, 2024. So if you look at the LPDA page for this, you can see we have our committee members, we have all of our meetings linked with the minutes, linked for a video, we have all of our proposals, all up on here. And LPDA is the best place to do this. If a page is created for each committee each term, they can stick all of their records up there. And that way members can go to one spot and download everything that they need. You know, we could perhaps make that a policy, but a lot of this stuff is already in our policies. The committees just aren't following them. And the last thing I'd like to say, just per Roberts, committees generally only have a chair. They sometimes voluntarily will have a vice chair and a secretary. Those are not required for committees. Any committee that wants to have public meetings, if they send me their dates, I'll put it on lp.org and I'll also put it on the public calendar. And also, kind of unbeknownst, committees aren't required to keep minutes. Committees can, the bylaws does, but they're just required to keep internal notes in order to prepare their reports. What committees are required to do is have reports, not minutes. So just in general, that was just some institutional information.
Okay, so we're gonna go to Dustin Blankenship and then we're gonna go to Dustin Neiman.
All right, I assuming that means it's an appropriate time for me to move to amend the agenda to take, I gotta make sure I've got this right, under new business with previous notice number 8 from today, C and D, and move those to 10, F, and G tomorrow from the agenda.
Okay.
So you go to the agenda, 8,
D,
C, and D,
Which is,
potential policy manual revision, CRM, discussion on transparency, and just moving those down under 10 after E, which would be F and G, to create the new F and G for tomorrow.
Are you looking at the adopted agenda?
Yeah.
Am I looking at the wrong one?
Oh,
I might
adopted
be.
agenda.
Let me go. Oh, yeah. You know what? I was looking at the PDF. Ignore my incorrect numbers. Adopted agenda. Here we go. Yeah, I was looking at the proposed, not the adopted. Sorry about that. So let's go back to this again. And
Yeah, adopted.
okay, here we go. Yes. So D and E under 8,
It's a different tab.
Right, it appears probably it's a-
and move it to under 12. It looks like these are slightly off.
What?
It starts at B under 12.
Okay, yeah, that's just an error on
So
my
at the
part.
end of that list.
Okay, it needs a second.
Can I make a suggestion? We're gonna run out of time at 5 anyway today. Maybe change that tomorrow.
My primary reason for doing so is because I believe that we can knock out the other items before, and that I do not believe we can get through those items. It will save us time tomorrow if we can get through the items we can today.
You could just move those items up.
Yeah, that might be easier.
What you do is you just move to lay those other ones on the table. But however, the chair reminded me there is a second policy manual motion.
There is, so, and it is appropriate right now. So let's sort out, before we get there, let's sort out what Dustin Blankenship wants to do. Because there is a second policy manual provision, or revision that is pertinent to this item specifically. So you would like to move those 2 items to tomorrow. And then what time would you like to move it
To the end of new business with previous
to?
notice.
The end of new business with previous notice.
And what 2 items were those again, please?
Potential policy manual revision, CRM, transparency discussion.
Okay.
And then that would leave us with new LNC meeting location and the APRC vacancy.
Correct.
Okay, are you okay with that?
Am I okay with it?
Yeah, because we're moving your.
Yeah, it's fine. Promise me we'll get through business to get to it.
That's what I'm asking. That's what I'm asking you.
I
just
would
want you to
prefer,
feel-
I would prefer if we
Mindset.
just moved these two to now and left everything there. And I won't fight it if we do it this way, but you guys got to promise me as a body that we will at least get to it. I don't expect a actual like vote even to come out of this. I just want a good faith discussion about it and to get the ball rolling on it. That's all I'm asking for.
I will work aggressively to make sure we don't skip anything.
Okay. We can move it up again. If we have to.
Okay.
Can always move it back up.
So it still needs a second at this point.
Second.
Okay, there we go. Discussion? Miguel?
I just wanted to say I'm okay with my thing being moved to the end of day tomorrow. That's what I originally wanted. I expect it to be hairy and contentious, and I really just want to duke it out, and I don't want it to be rushed. So thank
Okay. And Ms. Houston?
May I ask a stupid question? Are we just abruptly ending the conversation on productivity in committees, or is this getting
No.
active?
No, we're still going.
Okay, got it. Cool.
Okay.
Stuff to say there. Cool.
Okay, any further discussion about this, agenda amendment? Okay, is there any objection? If there's no objection, going once, going twice, then the agenda is amended.
And I'll put up another amended agenda.
Great, thank you, you're making me work.
And I did put the other policy manual on the
Okay.
screen.
So this needs to be moved.
This came out of the committee. This is the one that slipped my mind. This was the second policy manual amendment. And it was to add the blue language to under committee terms of office. The blue language is any committee member who misses 3 consecutive meetings or a total of 5 meetings is considered to have automatically resigned. This does not apply to committees created pursuant to the bylaws, which would require an active vote of the appointing body.
So what would this actually control then?
I'm sorry?
What would this affect? Because
Yeah,
it's not,
which
it's not going to affect bylaw or ballot
It's not gonna
access. 'Cause
affect
it's a,
anything retroactive.
It would affect ballot access because that's a committee of the LNC. It's a subcommittee of the LNC. So if somebody missed 3 consecutive meetings of the ballot access committee or a total of 5 meetings in an LNC term, they will not need to be removed. They will be considered to have automatically resigned in the same way of an LNC member who misses 2 in-person meetings.
I guess I don't understand the last sentence then. This does
The
not
last
apply to-
sentence means it's just to make it clear, like the bylaws committee, the credentials committee, and the platform committee are not subcommittees of the LNC.
Right.
So those bodies, in order to have anyone removed from them, there's different appointing bodies. So like
I
if
got you.
Florida, for example, appointed a platform committee member that never showed up, we have no right to say they resigned.
Yeah.
That's Florida's right.
Bylaws versus policy manual. No, I get it.
Yes.
Okay.
And the count starts tomorrow.
Once this passes,
Once it
yeah.
passes, yeah, so this is not, no one's getting punished retroactively.
Question?
Yes.
Ms. Harless, would you consider something friendly by way of an amendment that allows for an excused absence by the chair of the committee, illness, et cetera?
Well,
I have no specific language to offer.
I mean,
just
if you wanted my thoughts on it before a motion was amended, would I oppose that? Yes, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Bodies hate to remove people
That's true.
because we're all friends here. That's why the bylaws say an LNC member who misses 2 meetings is considered to have automatically resigned. Because with the exception of last term, most LNCs don't like removing people. And yeah, I said it.
This
I
term
said it.
also, right?
It happened.
Right?
But in general, it's
didn't
difficult.
like
It's
doing it.
difficult to look your friend in the eye and go, you're not doing your job, we're gonna remove you. So the automatic resignation kind of lets everyone be Pontius Pilate and wash their hands of it. It just happens automatically. So that's why I would oppose that.
And if I may just follow up, the other thing is some committees, as we know, meet far more frequently. I give you a convention committee than others. So 3 meetings in a row is very different from a committee that meets weekly than one that says, for example, meets every other month. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I would be open to an amendment that says the just like our bylaws says, I'd have to look at the bylaws language, I'd like to mirror it, that says that the resigned person can be reappointed.
So here's my thoughts on it, because I weighed in on this. You can miss like 2 meetings in a row if you have scheduling conflict and still be very active behind the scenes in emails,
Sure.
crafting policy and so on and so forth. If you miss 3 meetings in a row, we have a problem. That means that your schedule is conflicting and you cannot be as effective as part of this committee, or you're a flake. And we have had some committee members not showing up very consistently. And at this point, I don't want to play the blame game. It's just that you can't make this commitment for whatever reason. That's okay. I need you to resign. I need you to do that for the benefit of the committee, for other people who are very frustrated. And just simply offering, well, if you find someone else to replace me, then that's not helpful. I need you to just be the man and resign. And if that's not going to happen, then we're going to have this, and then we're going to have much happier people on committees. Our committees are going to work better, and there's no hard feelings. Yes.
And this is just a thought, and I haven't decided whether I think it matters or not, but if you have a twice a month meeting, that's 26 meetings a year, roughly 52 meetings over the course of a 2-year term of a committee. Is the 5 meetings over 2 years too restrictive for the total, or is that okay? I don't know. I'm just throwing that question out.
That's the point I was trying to raise.
Okay, I would welcome the input of the other policy manual committee members. If you're talking about a committee that meets very often and these seem too restrictive, it's not the right committee for you. There are committees that meet far less often. So, I understand that 3 meetings for a committee that meets every 2 weeks is really easy to do, but that just means it's not the committee for you. It's a very active committee and you probably don't have the time for it. It's not a reflection on the person at all. Some committees require people with a lot more free time, and it's not fair to the rest of the committee. And I personally don't think 5 is terribly restrictive. And I'm on 2 committees that meet twice a week.
Same.
I mean, not twice a week, every other week.
Month, yeah.
So I'm fine either way with striking that or not. But the other thing I would say is, if you're attending committee meetings that meet once a week or once every other week, and you miss 5 meetings, but you still have skin in the game, the odds are you're going to get immediately reappointed.
That language isn't in here.
That's the point, I think.
Yeah, but the language doesn't say you
It
can't
doesn't say
either.
banned for life either.
Right. Doesn't say you can't.
But you can. And the odds are that people are going to be working with you anyway. Either way, I'm fine with whichever way it goes on that, but the 3 in a row I think needs to stay, because we have institutional problems.
Yeah.
Right.
Mr. Vanna?
It's 4:48. I'm gonna call the question.
Well, I don't know if we even have a motion on the floor, do we?
Yeah, we do.
It was seconded?
It came from a committee.
Oh, okay,
motions that
so it was
come out of
already-
committee, don't require seconds.
Okay, is there any objection to calling the question?
Yes, because I think we want to make an amendment. I didn't know that we were in we had a motion before the body, so. So I thought if we were going to be amenable to amendment, then it would be in order to make that motion at this time, so.
Go ahead.
Let me pull up the language that's in our bylaws so that we're consistent.
All right, we got to take a vote on calling the question real quick. Who wants to call the question? Raise your hand. Okay, everyone opposed? All right, I think we're calling the question.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
We can also amend it next time.
The policy manual can be amended, it's the later time.
You can amend it next time and I'll make sure it gets on the agenda.
The policy manual committee will take it out.
We're meeting next week.
Okay, so we're gonna go to a vote.
Yeah, this will require a roll
And
call.
let's do I'll just.
Yeah, let me just copy this template.
By your personal privilege, could you just reread exactly what we're looking at, please?
Yeah, one moment. It's the blue language that's up on the screen, so it's to add to committee terms of office in the paragraph. that says any committee member who misses 3 consecutive meetings or a total of 5 meetings. I know it's not in here, but committees only last term to term, so it's for an LNC term, is considered to have automatically resigned. This does not apply to committees created pursuant to the bylaws, which would require an active vote of the appointing body.
Okay, so Madam Secretary, when you're ready, we'll go to a roll call vote and I'll let you take care of that.
Mr. Cowan,
Aye.
Mr. Blankenship,
Yes.
Mr. Bowen,
Yes.
Mr. Duque,
Yes.
Mr. Clark.
Yes.
Why are some of, never mind, I'm not even gonna worry about it. Mr. Elliott,
Yes.
Mr. Ford,
I'll abstain.
Mr. Pankey,
No.
Mr. Hagopian.
No.
I will vote yes. Mr. Nana,
Abstain.
Mr. Nikela,
Yes.
Mr. Rufo,
Yes.
Mr. Tunyevich,
Yes.
Mr. Watkins.
Yes.
Madam Chair, it's 8-2-2.
This requires a majority, not 2/3.
Correct.
Yeah, because there was, wait, is this a standing rule? Well, it's 2/3 and a majority either way.
Oh, we're already at 2/3.
Yeah, where it,
Yeah, okay, I'm not, then vote then.
okay.
All right, motion passes. Okay, it is now 4:51. Next item on the agenda, unless there's anything more on this agenda item.
This agenda item being the committee effectiveness. I'll be very brief. I really think that, we're setting the pace that our volunteers are going at, and we want to demonstrate and model that we're going at a faster pace. We're here to move faster. We want to set our party members free. We want to create a world free from pointless meetings in our lifetime. Immediately. So I really think that, we can push committees, or I think they'll be agreeable to suggestions on what is on their agenda. Maybe some committees want to tackle a big ambitious project that we may or may not have the money or resources for, and they could be redirected to like, hey, we actually need you to make calls or do this work or do this other higher priority activity right now. Maybe that can wait for later. I also would really encourage, I appreciate Elpedia, the historical preservation. I think that if we're using a whole suite of tools that's very integrated, I would really want to emphasize utilizing the 365 calendar, OneDrive, et cetera, at a high level, and then indexing things on Elpedia kind of like from that. But I think that both of those can work together really well. And also about meeting links. So like if there are different committees using, maybe some use Zoom, some use Google Meet, maybe that could all actually be used. They could all kind of meet on one system where if the chair of a committee for some reason can't attend the meeting, other members can still hop on without that host having to start the meeting or something like that. Because that happened to me recently where I tried to get on a committee meeting and for some reason it wasn't being started. So maybe there could be a link created by staff somehow that, any member can join without someone needing to start it. That's all I had.
All right,
Ms.
we're gonna
Ms.
go to
Houston.
Ms. Houston real quick and then we're gonna go to the next item.
We're gonna make this real fast. I would just love to say I love this topic and I think this is something that deserves a lot more reflection over the next 3 months. Would love to work with anyone who's looking to get more productive, even if you're just coming with a problem. 2 really easy things that I would recommend that we've seen work well in some committees. Number 1, if you have an unofficial person or the chair of the committee and you want to identify yourself as the liaison to staff, it would be awesome to have a single point of contact. Really love that with lots of the committees we are working with, and it shows when we don't have it. So if you want to talk about it, please talk to Drew and I. We're trying to document that this weekend. And then second, we'll talk about this more when we get to our Monday training on Scrum. But one of the beautiful things about Scrum is it's organized into what's called a sprint. And the premise is exactly what you're talking about there, Miguel. Naturally, time between committee meetings is like your sprint. So if you're meeting once a month, what would you want to get done by 1 month from now? It helps everyone get in the mindset we're trying to attack something big quickly. And so if anyone's curious about how to adopt that, we try to do it in our day-to-day jobs, and I think it would benefit us as well. That's it.
Okay, next agenda item is fill the APRC vacancy. Do we recall who noticed this agenda item?
I did, because we have a vacancy.
Okay, I have a nomination unless you have one.
I did.
Okay, I'm gonna nominate Mike Ruffo.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Do we have any other nominations? Because that's allowed.
Anybody else interested?
Nobody said that.
I mean, that is important too.
Move the nominations be closed.
Second.
That's all the matter about.
Were there any other nominations? Were there nominations on the list that I didn't see?
I have a motion to close nominations.
Second.
Motion to close nominations?
And second.
Okay.
Is it possible ever to make a motion to elect someone with a claim?
By acclamation.
By acclamation.
Acclamation.
Well,
Standing
that's where we're going.
All right, I motion to elect Mike Ruffo to the LPRC by acclaim and unanimity and love
Yay.
and respect.
Standing acclamation.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Second. All in favor?
Hey.
All right, any objections?
Acclamation.
All right.
There you go. Acclamation.
You don't want it, right?
He doesn't want
You
it.
want it, right?
Yeah, no, we're good. We're good. I think no, we're good.
All right, are we good?
You got it. Good.
It's all done.
Okay. We are adjourned for the rest of the day. It's Friday morning at 9 a.m.
I think I can clear up my,
Yeah.
the next one in about 5 minutes.
Bar extension.
Madam Chair, I move to extend business for 5 minutes
Okay.
We have 4 minutes.
It's 5:05.
But still,
for the purpose of
still
completing.
It's not 5 o'clock yet.
Which,
convention meeting location.
oh my gosh.
That is not
Meeting
gonna be
location.
budgeted.
Yes,
Meeting
I am
location.
confident.
I'm only
I'm
talking
confident.
about location right now. Meeting
No
location
way.
is-
I know
Just tell
you
us
and
the
I are in
location.
agreement on that, but
I'm-
I
I can-
think you're.
I'd like to make a
I
motion.
can guarantee you that, I can guarantee you that this will take 5 minutes.
I'd like to make a motion to, given the importance of a phone LNC visit to District of Columbia Hilton Anticipation Measures Convention, that we move with a claim to have the next meeting there.
Second.
I didn't hear. I'm
I
sorry.
didn't hear it either.
DC.
The next meeting.
At the
in
DC
Washington,
Hilton.
DC.
Yeah.
For purposes of.
I know.
At the I'd like to say
You see
something.
all day, every day.
Okay,
This will-
before
that
you,
way we
in
can see
Austin, Texas, I spoke about the potential that when we have LNC meetings, to have fundraising meetings attached to them, and we selected a meeting location in New Mexico. I'm delighted we're here, we've had excellent hospitality. We spent a lot of today discussing how revenue is down. I would wanna make sure that if we're considering locations, that we think about a holistic situation of what we're gonna get out of that meeting and when it's gonna take place. I think there's a lot of benefit to going to see this, but I wouldn't rush through this. Decision is actually quite important to our revenue strategy. That's all. Yes.
Am I recognized?
Yep.
Okay. I'm gonna make a friendly, ask for a friendly amendment and just say Washington DC.
Thank you.
There's no guarantee that we can get into the Hilton pricing. We don't know the pricing. We know we want to be in Washington DC. May I speak to my friendly amendment?
Yes, you may.
Okay. Most of you I've talked to. If I have not talked to you, I apologize. It's just I didn't get to you. I think everyone here is in agreement. I've made a case that the convention will be less than 365 days away at the next meeting. It is customary for us to meet at least once at the venue so everybody can see it in person. I want to do that as quickly as possible. We waited a little too long last term. Although it was a very successful convention, it would have been even more successful had we been there a little earlier. So for those reasons, I am, and the convention committee, by the way, not just me, would like to have the next meeting in Washington, DC, and I ask for your support. Thank you.
How about the metro area? Because maybe go to Arlington.
We could still visit the.
I told you it wasn't gonna be 5 minutes. You owe me a drink.
I owe you a drink anyway.
I just want to acknowledge that.
That's true, that's true.
Did we
have
ever
so much more to do.
Yeah.
with
Automatically
this.
adjourned at
that
Oh, is that all?
I
15 seconds.
would love to partner with people on LNC to make sure we're having fundraising events wherever they are. The last time what happened is we said, oh, let's do this in Mexico, et cetera. Maybe we should have a fundraiser in Miami. Follow-up didn't happen, so I will close that gap between
Orders
now
for
and
the
then, but let's find a way to.
I would,
Mr. Ford, did you have something?
no, I'll see
Okay,
before.
okay.
Thank you. I would accept that friendly amendment, say Washington DC area.
No, point
Point of order.
point of order.
Yes.
Okay, there's no such thing as a friendly
Okay, you were gonna
amendment.
say that.
I'm about to have.
Secondary.
Parliamentary.
Point of order.
Can I, what, right, do I have?
Okay, so the amendment that has been made, do we have a?
Wait,
It's an unfriendly
sorry.
amendment. Just ignore the fact that it's not friendly. It's not
Okay, it's an
friendly.
unfriendly amendment.
but we already have, okay, we're on the second level of amendment, just to be clear.
Are we,
because-
did the first one get a second?
Point of order.
I don't know.
We never extended time.
May I make a suggestion?
It's now
Oh, we're at
elapsed
5
5.
o'clock right now.
We're done.
Okay, what's done?
Well, hold on, and yes, but hold on, we're at time.
I'll make a motion to extend time for 5 minutes, please.
Object.
Same.
Orders of the day.
Orders of the day.
No, he made a motion to extend time.
Oh.
Who objected?
I did.
Okay. Okay, there's been an objection. Are we gonna move to extend time?
There's no second yet.
This is getting chaotic. Okay, who wants to extend time? I need to show of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4 people. Who does not want to extend time?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people with their hands up. Okay,
Orders of
I'm
the day.
so sorry, the motion to extend time failed. So I believe what we're gonna need to do is resume this item at the beginning of business tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Will be our first. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're going to adjourn until 9 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Awesome.
Delightful. I will see you all.
Logistics. Logistics. Do we all have to order Ubers and collectively order Ubers, or you're not?
So here's what I recommend, everyone. The shuttle is about a 17-minute drive away. I'm about to find out from